Meanwhile, more than 15 civil society organizations, elections monitors, and rights groups have written to President Tinubu on the needs to reform the electoral system. In a document tagged Citizens Memo to the President, the organizations say the current process is flawed and are campaigning for the strengthening of the independence and professionalism of INEC to ensure credible elections and inspire public trust in the electoral process. They're calling for a constitutional amendment to remove the power to appoint the INEC chairman, national commissioners, and resident electoral commissioners from the president and introduce a multi-stakeholder approach to appointments into INEC. Well, let's have this discussion now with Oluwole Osaze-Uzzi, who, as a former INEC National Commissioner in charge of publicity. Thanks very much for joining us, Osaze.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
By the way, I was not a national commissioner. I was never a national commissioner.
Director of publicity, yes, and voters education.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you for the quick correction.
Okay.
So many groups are advocating, a multi-dimensional ways of appointing a new chairman. Why do you think this call is growing louder and louder?
Well, it's nothing new, really. I think it's coming a bit late, if you ask me, because, as you said, in a couple of weeks, literally weeks, the INEC chairman will have exhausted his tenure. I believe it's actually on the 8th of December 2025, because if my memory serves me correctly, he was sworn into office on the 9th of December 5 years ago. So right back to the Ways Commission had made recommendations as to the mode of appointment of the INEC chairman. I think the Lemu, I'm not sure of the Lemu Commission, but the Nnamani Commission also made some suggestions and recommendations in that regard. So it's nothing new. It's because for the first time in a decade, we are going to have a totally new chairman, because Professor Yakubu has served 2 consecutive terms. Because people are worried about the performance of INEC and the
integrity of
INEC performance, and they somehow trace that to the mode of appointment of both the chairman, national commissioners, and resident electoral commissioners. That has undergone some kind of the constitution has been amended before, because initially, as of 1999, you have to have the same qualifications as a member of the House of Representatives. And part of that qualification is that you have to belong to a political party and be sponsored by that political party. But that, with the amendments to the Constitution, has been removed. But the amendments did not go far enough to isolate the appointment from what the people term political considerations. So it's almost exclusively with the president now to make the appointment subject, of course, to Senate confirmation and to consultation with the Council of States.
Okay, even some groups like the Kuka Center, Seraps, and other civil society organizations are asking, should the mode of appointing the chairman still, follow consulting the Council of State and the rest? Why not broaden the spectrum? Just like you said, there's still the worry of INEC's integrity in elections matters and what have you.
Yes.
But the stakeholders, they want even the Constitution to be amended further again.
Yes.
And I'm sure that must be in the works too. It must be on the agenda of the President National Assembly that is looking at, chiseling Nigeria's constitution again.
Yes.
But what are your thoughts here that you think can give a great verve, to INEC in performing its duties?
That's an interesting question, because we should go back to what are the issues, what are the things that ail our electoral process? Is it just a consideration of mode of appointment of members of the commission? I think it's deeper than that, much deeper than that. But this could be an issue which should be part of the broader conversation as to and yes, a lot of people have called for a change in the mode of appointment. maybe make it more transparent, make it more independent, because the president, who has a lot of powers in terms of appointment now, is likely, and in this case, is likely to be a candidate in the next election to be conducted by the person who's appointed. And people go further to say, look, if he's interested and is likely to have somebody who's more pliable and who's more likely to go along with things, and he who pays the piper dictates the tune. But I recall that the first chairman of INEC was Justice Ephraim Akpata. And in his swearing-in, he did make a statement, and he said, look, yes, I have been appointed by the head of state as at that time. There was no Senate, so it was appointed by the military regime. I said, but whoever makes this appointment has to learn to dance to the tune that the piper, that is us as INEC, plays. And that tune is in accordance with the constitution, with the laws of the game governing the electoral process. I don't think when Jega was appointed, Professor Jega, by the way, was a member of the Ways panel. And he was appointed not in accordance with the recommendation of the Ways panel, but by President Jonathan, who said he had never met him. And that appointment, there are very few people who quarrel as to the performance of Professor Jega, because he brought some verve to that position.
Innovation by bringing professors as returning officers. Some who couldn't even, stand the rigor, the integrity, or exude, confidence, altruism in reading election results.
You've touched on a different nerve, quite honestly, because Jega was not the first person who brought professors into becoming returning officers. Okay. And the law has also been changed. In the Electoral Act of prior to Professor Jega's coming, the resident electoral commissioners, for example, were returning officers.
Yes.
But that was now amended. So it wasn't a Jega initiative per se, but he brought them. He used them a lot more.
He brought them to limelight, right? He used them more.
Yes, he used them a lot more.
And one would have expected, the integrity of INEC, of the commission, to be bolstered by that. But what do we have?
That is correct. So basically, that tells you that it's not people from Mars that are going to appoint to change the electoral system.
There are forces, really spinning INEC and wanting them to do their bids, right? Well, isn't that the dangers the stakeholders are pointing out, that, look, the president should not have the sole power of appointing? Yeah, though the Senate confirms the appointments.
You're taking me in different directions now. I'm getting a bit confused. But yes, okay, yes, that's an issue. But what you should examine that, what are the alternatives? That's what we should be talking about.
Go on.
Even if we say, look, this is not right, that is, the president should not have as much powers in terms of appointment, what are the alternatives? A lot of people say, oh, the National Assembly. But you're taking responsibility from one politician to a group of other politicians. So you still have that problem. Admittedly, the National Assembly has more representation in terms of political parties. But as I have, you've seen things from this studio, we've analyzed how the National Assembly has behaved, and almost certainly in this regime and previous administrations, where the president wants to go is where the National Assembly goes. So they are pliant. So does it solve the problem just by moving the appointment from one politician to a different set of politicians? These are the issues. I've been trying to analyze how best can we do it such that we avoid those kind of things. People say the NJC, but the NJC is politicized as well. The appointment of judges has become politicized as well. And don't forget, the Chief Justice of Nigeria has tremendous say in appointment of judges because he chairs several statutory and constitutional committees. And the president is involved in the appointment of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. So you're not going around in circles. So when people make recommendations, or when people say this is bad, they should make sustainable, good representation, that we're not throwing the baby with the bathwater, or we're not doing things in such a way that we're back to square one again when we're talking of such appointments. So that's the issue.
So, but I mean, speaking broadly now, do you think there is a need to expand the scope of consultations, beyond the Council of States and some other critical stakeholders like traditional religious institutions and the rest on the constitution of the leadership of INEC?
Well, you and I know how politicized even traditional rulers who should be above the fray have become in recent times. We know that. We also know civil society. Civil society are quite divided in terms of this. And who else do you consult? So that's the issue. Now, let's not forget who are members of the Council of States. All governors are there. And governors come from different political platforms. All former chief justices there, the attorney general is there, former heads of states, former presidents are there. So really, it should consist of statesmen and people of the highest integrity who occupy the highest offices in the land. So these people should be able to speak for Nigerians and independently, not pliant to whatever the president says. I don't know which other groups of people and what will be the legal framework for such consultations with these groups of people.
As a lawyer and as an insider who's worked, at the apex of the commission,
yes,
would you support throwing the job open that Nigerians should apply?
Now, the issue with that is that don't forget that these same people are extremely powerful people. The president we are trying to avoid can actually sponsor people to apply. And who does the selection? Who does the filtration? Who filters these applicants? I don't know. When a few years back, under the tenure of Dr. Abel Gubadia, INEC came up with this innovation to say, look, in terms of returning officers, collation officers, let's throw it open. Let us advertise. And it did advertise, looking for retired civil servants, retired judges, and sort like high caliber people. We did not get such people, quite honestly. Those who occupy those positions were not interested. And when you look at the CV of the other people who did, question marks were asked about a lot of them. So what process are we going to use to say those who are interested should apply? And in this kind of position, it's not just those who are interested. You should actually go head hunting. You should go for people of utmost integrity, uprightness, and people who you think are capable of doing the job, have the sagacity, the capability of performing that job. So you don't get every I don't want to use the word lunatic, everybody in the streets, everybody who feels, oh yeah, I've not had a job for 5 years, maybe I should apply. Then again, how do you do the filtration? Who does? Which body does that filtration? National Assembly? Already National Assembly has a role. Because if we're doing the checks and balances, that the Senate should confirm or reject the nomination of the person because he's partisan, because his integrity is called to question, because he does not meet up to the kind of person we want. Does it do so? Apart from maybe one or two instances, I am not aware of anybody who has been nominated as national commissioner by the president. There's a general who had contested elections in Niger State who was rejected. There was a lady from Delta State who was also rejected. But apart from these, which is probably about 5-10% of those who have been nominated, invariably it's, oh yeah, president has been, so let it go.
Just very quickly before I let you go, tell us, what do you think is the most critical reform that INEC needs? Away from go to court, we've announced the result, go to court every now and again.
It will take me more than 30 minutes to dissect that. But basically, yeah, it's an issue of maybe the Maghreb countries, for example, where you have a situation where if INEC conducts an election, the onus of proof that the election complied with the Electoral Act, with the Constitution, probably should lie with INEC. INEC should be the one to say, this is the election we conducted, see the processes we followed. So you shift the burden of proof from the person who says the election was not conducted in accordance with the laws and regulations of the election, but let INEC come and say, this is what we did. That shifts our Evidence Act and turns things the other way around. So the onus will now be on INEC to show and prove that look, this is in compliance with what the law says. Maybe we should start thinking out of the box in terms, without that kind of reform, it's almost impossible to get people who have been had done by the electoral process and by INEC. INEC in the election did not call any witness. Did not call any witness. But we have three results. One, the one you gave to the political parties, EC8A. One, the one you certified as using collation, and one that you sent to IREV. Sometimes it's three. For the same polling units, show different results.
Well, there's so much rejigging really to do in the act establishing INEC, and let's hope that the present, the 10th National Assembly would get it right, almost get it right this time. Thanks so very much, Chair Oluwole Osaze-Uzzi, former Director of Information and Voters Education, Independent National Electoral Commission, for shedding light on the agitation and call for independent appointment of INEC's chairman.